Welcome back to what we're calling Living the Good Life, where we're beginning in Jesus' teaching known as the Sermon on the Mount. We're on a journey, line by line and thought by thought, because I believe that the best way to live in the ways of Jesus is to make sure we know the words of Jesus. Here's the section that we're beginning out in from the book of Matthew, chapter 5. Blessed are the poor in spirit, for the kingdom of heaven is theirs. Blessed are those who mourn, for they will be comforted. Blessed are the humble, for they will inherit the earth. Blessed are those who hunger and thirst for righteousness, for they will be filled. Blessed are the merciful, for they will be shown mercy. Blessed are the pure in heart, for they will see God. Blessed are the peacemakers, for they will be called sons of God. Blessed are those who are persecuted because of righteousness, for the kingdom of heaven is theirs. Now, each week, we've been reminding ourselves to take into account the people who are listening to Jesus teach, and definitely standing in the group of people on the hillside that day were people who were literally hungry and thirsty. Just think about this in the first century. Without the convenience of grocery stores or refrigeration, coupled with the fact that people were being paid a daily wage and may not have access to money or the food, there was a lot of hunger. Even water was scarce, or at least you had to walk a good distance to find it. It was very time-consuming, and you literally had to rearrange your life around finding it. So there were definitely people who were hungry and thirsty, listening to him say these words. Blessed are those who hunger and thirst for righteousness, for they will be filled. Reminder now, Jesus is talking about what it looks like to live the good life, to be blessed by God, or to have his favor on you. Now, if you've ever been really hungry or thirsty, you know that that doesn't seem to feel like God is allowing you the good life. But Jesus is using the common feeling of hunger and thirst to talk about the desires that we have inside of us, those longings and cravings, a pang, if you will. And we all have them. Those appetites create a hunger inside of us that must be satisfied. When you haven't eaten for a while and are hungry, there's something missing inside of you. When you're thirsty and haven't had a drink in a good while, that thirst needs to be quenched. And in the same way, those desires and longings inside of us need to be satisfied. Blaise Pascal was a 17th century French religious philosopher who defined that longing inside of us by saying that there's a God-shaped vacuum in the heart of every man which cannot be filled by any created thing, but only by God the Creator made known through Jesus Christ. And if we don't satisfy our longings with Jesus, we will seek to fulfill that need in a number of different ways. We'll seek to fill that void with anything, and sometimes it doesn't matter what it is. We may even go after things that don't satisfy us, things that look like they bring the blessed life, or even quite contrary, things that may even harm us. And some of us will dabble in the spiritual, but only enough to provide what amounts to a snack on the run or an unhealthy meal. And here, Jesus is teaching that says the blessed person is the one who hungers and thirsts specifically for righteousness. It's important to understand what we mean by righteousness. It's this Greek word that Jesus uses, dikaiosune. Now, one way to think about righteousness is in the terms of right behavior. We would say that you are a just person. Another angle on righteousness is to say that through the grace and forgiveness of Jesus, we are declared righteous. The word we made up for that is justified. And so another understanding of righteousness is your desire to be right with God. But there's another angle on righteousness, and the word sometimes gets translated as justice. So we have just, justified, and justice, meaning that your desire for God is to make the world right. So when Jesus says we're blessed when we hunger and thirst for righteousness, we test ourselves with questions like these. 1, do I want to be right with God as much as a starving person wants food? Or 2, do I want the world to be made right as much as a person dying of thirst wants a drink? You are blessed when you want to live right so badly that there's an ache and a pang inside of you. You're blessed when you want to see justice done in the world so much that it hurts you. Jesus says when you hunger and thirst for righteousness, you are blessed, and he says you will be filled. The word is hortazo. This is more than just feeling full after dinner. This is overflowing. You're stuffed, even bloated. You are utterly satisfied. In the kingdom of Jesus, your deepest longings and desires can be satisfied. That ache, that pang, that longing and feeling of emptiness can be satisfied through Jesus. And when you're filled by Jesus, you're overflowing into the world. So now we're touching on both sides of righteousness. I'm right with God through my hunger for Jesus, and I'm making the world right because I'm utterly satisfied and overflowing. So the blessed person is the one who's full of Jesus and his kingdom, and we're busting at the seams, and we still can't get enough. This is not a spiritual buffet that you hit up one time and you think that will last you for the rest of your life. But the blessed person never has enough of God and is always hungry for more. So, some simple takeaways. You may be sitting in your group right now, or you somehow stumbled across this video, and you know that you have a place inside of you, a longing and a desire that is unfilled. You've tried certain things to satisfy it, but it's still there. On several occasions, Jesus used bread and water as real-life illustrations for a relationship with him. In the book of John chapter 6, verse 35, he even combined these two things into one thought when he says, I am the bread of life. No one who comes to me will ever be hungry, and no one who believes in me will ever be thirsty again. Your step today is to come to Jesus fully and believe in him, to stop looking at all the other places to be satisfied, and to trust in him and rely on him as a source of what will fill you. Others of us are essentially, and for lack of better terms, snacking on Jesus. And that doesn't cut it when you're starving. One drink doesn't save you from dying. The sentence structure in this beatitude for hunger and thirst actually indicates more than just wanting a part of something. It means I want the whole thing. And that rules out half-hearted devotion. So your step today is to continually hunger and thirst for more of Jesus. And then there's a definite takeaway where we long for the world to be right. We desire healing for the world and for God to fix what's broken. So when you see things around you and your reaction is, someone should do something about that, when you hunger and thirst for that, you will start to become the solution in part for the aches in the community around you. This is both a beautiful and a challenging teaching. Blessed are those who hunger and thirst for righteousness, for they will be filled.